It's the Age Has No Limit podcast. We're here to show and prove that your age shouldn't prevent you from designing and living the life you want. I'm your host, Patrice Davis. Let's get started. Welcome to the Age Has No Limit podcast. I'm Patrice Davis. I'm a mom of three, the CEO of GrantsWorks Consulting, and the founder of Ready, Set, Go Consult, a consulting business accelerator. Each week, I highlight ways you can live on your own terms, share tips on how to start or grow a business, and I feature guests who chose to redefine their lives and live outside the box in their own way. If you're listening to us on your favorite streaming platform, please download this and any of our past episodes so you can listen on the go. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. So I'm so excited to introduce to you, our audience, to Shabnam Naz Ansari. Shabnam worked in corporate for over 27 years in senior management positions. She is the founder and CEO of a Canadian federally registered charity called the Volunteer Well. Her journey to creating the Volunteer Well is rooted in deeply personal and devastating life experiences. When she was at her most vulnerable and unsupported by her community, she had to make a decision for the sake of her safety and survival, and that decision remains the biggest regret of her life. Since then, she's made it her mission to create a platform to strengthen families, connect communities, and unite humanity. And we can all get behind that. Shabnam, thank you so much, and welcome to the Age Has No Limit podcast.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you so much. I'm truly honored to be here.
Excellent. Thank you. So if you're comfortable, and depending on what you are comfortable sharing with us, let's start by, learning a little bit more about the experience or experiences that led to you creating the Volunteer Well.
Yes, so the Volunteer Well basic aim and mandate is to deeply connect people with each other at a deeper level so that no one remains isolated. And obviously, it is based on my own personal life story. So just a quick sort of recap, obviously. Born and brought up as a Muslim in Pakistan, remained in a 13-year-long abusive marriage. Went to the court to get divorced. And at that point of time, the law has recently changed. Mm-hmm. But when I started the legal court battle, I realized that the law has changed, but the practice has not. Mm-hmm. I ended up in a 3-year-long legal battle in the court, character assassination, end-to-end, family, friends pressure, bribing of lawyers by him. I ended up changing the lawyers thrice and have had to study the law myself. So at the end of the 3-year period, when I finally got divorce, I was exhausted. I was weak. I had given up on the system. At that point of time, I was the senior vice president at the second largest bank in Pakistan, really up there, was only one of 4 women in a room filled with 30 men. And I was really connected with my children, 2 girls and a boy. Went to Dubai in search of a job, could not find anything, came back. As soon as I came back, he applied for the custody of the children again through the court. Mm-hmm. Was at my weakest, didn't have the strength to go through another court case battle, went to the court and handed over the custody of my children with my own hands to him. Mm-hmm. And I left the country as a rebel, and rebel in all its form, Patricia. It was rebel in terms of against my system, against fellow countrymen and women, against norms, traditions, against religion. In fact, I blamed everything on the religion. Mm-hmm. When I started reading the Holy Book, I realized that this is not what the divine is wanting from us. It is only hearsay that people are following. There are only two basic key principles that are at the heart of the charity even now. And the first one is that whatever we are given, be it in terms of our time or wealth or money or efforts or skills, even our bodies, they are not given as our ownership. They are given as trustees or caretakers. Mm-hmm. It is to be spent for the benefit of others. So volunteering is really central to the charities. The second is that we cannot exclude or discriminate or judge another human being. We are expected to connect humanity based on our shared values of love, compassion, care, justice, connect them to the source, the same source where we all came from and where we are all heading. So these 2 key divine principles are still at the heart of the charity. So in terms of my children, I kept on fighting for the custody of the children, sitting here fighting the court case battle in Pakistani court, got them reunited with me after 8 years.
Wow.
My my eldest is now 27-year-old. My
Mhm.
younger one is now 25-year-old, and my son is 22-year-old. I've got a bonus daughter from my current marriage, a 24-year-old, lovely, lovely girl. And we have got a baby in our family, 7-year-old, our child.
Mhm.
When I reunited them with myself, I realized that 8 years is a long period. I got them reunited just before COVID. So I am not a mother to them anymore. I'm still trying to bridge the gap. I'm still trying to be there at the
Mhm.
same level where I was. And also, in terms of all of us suffering from various forms of mental health conditions such as ADHD, OCD, anxiety, depression. And I made it my life mission to make sure that I am the catalyst for deeper connected communities. I
Mhm.
empower individuals, connect communities, strengthen families, and unite humanity based on our shared values. And
Mhm.
the idea is so that no one feels isolated. No mother has to go through what I went through.
Yeah. Yeah. As you first started sharing your story, I just felt my body relaxing, and I immediately started really connecting with what you're saying. And I'm hoping the audience does the same, because what you experienced would be traumatic for anyone. Because, as you said, you were experiencing challenges at every level: familial, cultural, judicial, personal, so many levels. And I can understand why that would be, devastating. And then, of course, the physical distance from your children, and how challenging that had to have been. And then also combining that with being an immigrant. And I wanted to confirm that you are living in Canada. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And then being an immigrant, and then all of the challenges that comes with, especially when you left Pakistan as a vice president, and that transition to where you're currently living now. So I just want to make sure that you know that I truly heard your story, and I really hope that the listeners do as well. It also makes sense that this platform is aimed at strengthening families, connecting communities, and uniting humanity. Tell me about those two core principles. At what point did you realize, this is really what we're supposed to be doing here? So I would love for you to provide a little bit more insight on that.
Yes, yes. So if I look at the two core principles, right? And again, when I started studying the Holy Book, I realized that everything that everyone else is following is just hearsay. This is not what the divine is asking us to do. So
Mhm.
times and again, I found the same message. I found the same thing that we all are coming from the same source. There's the same source in you. There's the same source in us. It is not that we are in terms of what I am right now, it's not that I am a human being going through a spiritual experience. I'm
Mhm.
actually a spiritual being going through a temporary human experience.
Yes.
It's
Hmm.
the same source in you, in me, in every living things, in trees,
Absolutely.
in birds, in animals. It's the same source.
Hmm.
It's just like the energy is the
Hmm.
same. It's just like electricity which runs through the lamp is the same that runs through a microwave oven
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
electricity. It is the same. Deep down inside, we're all the same. So the world reality as it is right now is in terms of people are boxed in different discrimination boxes based on the background. But
Hmm.
at the very core, we are the same. We are one, right?
Yeah.
So the more I study the Holy Book, the more I realize that this is not what the divine is saying. The divine cannot be unjust. The divine cannot discriminate. The divine would not give separate set of laws to one nation and separate to another. The
Hmm.
divine would not discriminate based on gender or based on your background. That is not divine. Divine is nothing but love. And
Hmm.
that is what is in deep inside of it. And it's because of this that these two core principles is at the heart of the charity. Because what I have experienced through my breakdown and then breakthrough 2 decades, over 2 decades, is in terms of that we live in the world of of scarcity, of competitions, of judgment, of exclusion. And the only possibility for us to cross over to the world of abundance and limitless possibilities and collaborations and connections is through the science of generosity. When you ask for help, when you give help, really without any selfish reasons, without any, but only in terms of just helping yourself, it takes you above into the world of possibilities. And that is limit, because it's the same God, right? And I am God, you are God. Some people call it the source, some people call it the universe. Name or labels, those do not matter. What matters is that we have power in our hands. The only possibility is to just explore that power. And imagine if we as humanity are able to really unite together and really harness our potential. We are not able to even cross moon, for God's sake. But the potential is limitless in terms of what we can do, what we can achieve, right?
Yeah, yeah. And everything that you're saying resonates so much with me for a number of reasons. Number one, I did hear at the very beginning of the show when you mentioned that the divine does not want this. I find it very interesting that I'm attracting people that are confirming people I've never met, people in other countries, such as you living in Canada, confirming that many of us are coming to the realization that we are indeed divine, and that the ways that we separate ourselves are what we do, and we have to put ourselves in boxes for whatever reason, and that those boxes, as you describe them, are what separates us. And then based on that separation, we decide what this box agrees to follow. What hearsay, as you said, does this box agree to follow? And therefore, before you know it, that hearsay becomes the truth to that box. So it's very interesting that you're saying all of this, because it definitely, helps provide some clarity into some things that I'm also recognizing. And I also love the idea that the volunteer well is about giving. It's not just about volunteering. You're truly making it clear that people are giving their time. And so, giving of your time is one of the most important gifts that you can give to someone. So I thank you for creating a platform that allows people to do that. So I want to really learn how the platform itself really helps to strengthen families, connect communities, and unite humanity. If you can provide just some practical information on how that happens, I would love to learn from you.
Yes, yes. So in terms of the concept of volunteer well, it is built as a platform where we are connecting volunteers with those who are asking for help with each other directly without the involvement of any middleman. So what we're doing is it's like a marketplace for volunteering. So instead of volunteering or giving help and support to a local nonprofit, what you're doing is you're giving help and support to your neighbor. Similarly, instead of asking for help from a local nonprofit, you're asking for help from each other. The problem in the current world reality is in terms of people volunteering through a nonprofit and people asking for help through a nonprofit is twofold. One is that they remain disconnected from each other. People who are helping or giving help and support, they're not able to feel that impact. They're not able to feel that joy, that fulfillment there, because they are disconnected. Similarly, those who are seeking help, again, they're getting help from an organization, from a middleman. There's no human touch most of the times. Plus, what this model is doing, it is putting too much reliance on the non-profit sector, because of which there's a huge gap, and that gap keeps on increasing between demand and supply of charitable resources.
Yeah, yeah.
So what we're doing is we are starting ripple of kindness in terms of, if you want to give help to your neighbor. Look around whoever is asking for help around you, or offer you help. And one of the problem in the world reality today is that giving is celebrated, receiving is not. Giving is always celebrated. You always say the impact of that when you are giving, the universe and your body and your soul receives it. It takes it as it receives. So when you give, you receive it. But you are not actually promoting that when you ask for help, you're actually giving. You're actually giving the gift of giving somebody an opportunity to give, and
Yeah.
you're basically, in my mind, and as per the platform, I
Mm-hmm.
would like to celebrate receiving more than giving, because in the
Mm-hmm.
world reality today, there's a shame, there's a hesitation, there's a weakness attributed
Mm-hmm.
to asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
So if so 20 years back, when I was at my weakest, what if I could have asked for help? And
Mm-hmm.
and I would have entered into that support, that that deeper connection that I was not aware of, right? So even in terms of both the part of volunteering as well as receiving, both
Mm-hmm.
are celebrated. So if you look at volunteer well, well is in all three meanings. Well in terms of the pool of volunteers. Well
Mm-hmm.
also means in terms of doing volunteering the right way, in terms of direct source volunteering system. And
Mm-hmm.
well also means in terms of health and wellness. So health
Mm-hmm.
and wellness of everyone who is involved in the loop of generosity, be it the individual giving, be it individual asking for help, be it
Mm-hmm.
the communities. So health
Mm-hmm.
and wellness of individuals as well as stronger, resilient, deeply connected communities, right? It's
Absolutely.
all
Absolutely.
in. So in terms of the platform, one is the platform itself, and then we run programs. And
Mm-hmm.
these programs are basically empowerment programs that we are running for the seven sort of equity deserving or marginalized segments, such as women, new
Mm-hmm.
immigrants, elderly, youth, low income families, people with disabilities. And
Mm-hmm.
the sixth segment is anybody who is facing discrimination of any sort, be it LGBTQ plus communities, Black,
Mm-hmm.
Indigenous, people of color, families,
Mm-hmm.
anyone who is facing. And what I am doing in terms of these programs is to really, whatever I have learned through these 50 years, I have
Mm-hmm.
I have combined this as a gist of my 50 years life into this course, which
Mm-hmm.
gives an empowered sort of a blueprint for them. So rather than going through a breakthrough years and years,
Mm-hmm.
I am giving out whatever I have learned as a sort of a blueprint of
Mm-hmm.
empowerment to these marginalized segments, and then asking them to become ambassadors for volunteer well in their communities and become volunteers in their communities.
Mm-hmm. So, to paint the picture for us, and this is the first time I'm going to ask you to paint a picture. I living in my community, of course, and I need support of some sort. Maybe I'm experiencing, some kind of challenge. I can go to the volunteer well and note that, and basically, describe my challenge. The volunteer well somehow notifies people who have already signed up to provide that help. And tell me where I'm wrong, because I don't want to keep describing it and I'm way off track. I'd rather you help just kind of break down the parts for us so we know how it actually works.
Okay, I'll describe in terms of two parts of this equation. So
Mhm.
when you come on the platform, volunteer-well.org, it
Mhm.
has two basic parts, right?
Mhm.
There's a volunteer hub, and there are people who want to give help, and there are people who want to seek help, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
If you want to give help, what you can do is you can create your account and you
Mhm.
can list out any of the volunteer services that you're giving to your neighborhoods. It could be in
Mhm.
person, it could be virtual. You can teach a course online.
Mm.
Similarly, if you want to seek help, you can create an account,
Mhm.
or you can look through whoever is offering that support, because we need to understand that in the world reality today, asking for help is filled with hesitation, filled with
Mhm.
shame, filled with
Yeah.
connectedness. So it's difficult for people who want to seek help to really put in their request out there. It's difficult for them. It's
Mhm.
easier for them to just go through whoever is offering what and then pick whatever is suitable to them. So, for instance, I'm just giving an example. I am a single woman who is, or a single mother who is
Mhm.
going through a divorce. I do not have the capacity or the money to hire a legal
Mhm.
help. So I
Mhm.
go on that platform and I look around for anybody who is offering that legal help for free. And
Mhm.
there is a lawyer who is setting up their legal service. And they
Mhm.
want to
Mm.
give pro bono legal advice
Yeah.
for free during a particular week for that they're available 1 hour on Thursday, let's suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And the platform is able to connect the two only when the person who is seeking help is able to come over on the platform and look through that profile, and the person who is offering that help and support has already registered their help and support online. And what we have done is we have made it really, really easy. So you can create your account in few seconds in terms of just go online, link your account creation through Gmail or through Facebook, and your account is created. You can click whichever volunteer services you want to offer volunteer, whether you want to offer that as in person, as a physical, or in terms of a virtual. If it is in person, just mention your postal code, just like you would do in a marketplace, in a Facebook marketplace.
Okay.
It's the same mechanism.
I'm sure there are a lot of people that are listening, and they probably have some of the same questions. Then the first question for me is, and I know other people are thinking, so I'm just going to go ahead and ask, how do you, what's the word I'm looking for, vouch for or ensure that, make sure that the people who are offering help, the people who are volunteering to provide help or support are cleared? Is there some kind of clearance? Is there some kind of... Yes. Okay, great.
Yeah. So what we are doing is when we say that we are running the programs for our whole effort is focused on the 7 identified segment. All of these programs are run with the basic end of them becoming volunteers on the platform. So they go through a complete sort of an empowerment program, while at the same time go through training, and they become ambassadors of Volunteer Well in their communities.
Got it. So, interesting. So they don't just sign up. They have to go through programming to get to the other end, so that their volunteer, whatever their volunteer is already gone through the Volunteer Well. I don't want to use the word curriculum, but it's gone through the program to get to the point. And excellent.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So that is one way. That is one way, and that is the most important way. Another way is in terms of if somebody just lands on our website and want to become a volunteer, they can do that as well. In which case, the due diligence is on themselves on an individual basis. So, for instance, if you are going through and registering, let's suppose, your furniture for sale on a Facebook marketplace, right? You don't go through any program for that. You don't go through any vouching by anyone for that in terms of whether your furniture is up to the quality or not. You don't go through that, right? The onus of responsibility is at the end of both the buyer and the seller, in order to make sure that they complete their own due diligence at their individual level. Because what I have seen in terms of my years and years of experience is the more laws, the more check and balances you can build on, the more individual responsibility is reduced at an individual end.
That's a great point. So I'm going to definitely come back. I want to learn a little bit more about the Volunteer Well, and especially the point that you made about nonprofits, how sometimes they can be that middleman that removes that human touch, the human engagement. Definitely want to pick back up on that. But before we do that, let's talk about your best childhood experience. And I ask because I know that, based on, what you experienced, there is this feeling that you may have had as you were going through your breakdown and before you reached your breakthrough. But I'd love to learn, from you, your best childhood experience, the thing that always lights you up when that experience and memory comes up.
Yes. And again, there are many childhood experiences, because my childhood was amazing. It was beautiful. I was brought up as a daughter of an Air Force officer. So every second year we used to pack our house and move to a new location. So in terms of my adaptability to adapt to new environment or new people, that's great. One of the things that has really stick out to me over the years, referring back to your question in terms of best childhood experiences, is the time when all 4 of us, as in myself and my siblings, we were adults. So myself and my elder sister, we were both in our just about to graduate from our high school, going into university. And then our 2 younger brothers were obviously 2 years younger than us. So we were there in terms of being not really young adults, but in terms of our mature years. And we were living in this huge bungalow, because my father was the managing director of a local factory there. And best experience, and one moment that just simply something that I can look back and relate to, is in terms of going for a heavy pour. There was a heavy raining, really, really raining like cats and dogs started. And I said to everyone that I'm going out, and I'm going out, and I'm just going out and playing outside. And imagine it's like you going through those your teenage years. You become reserved, right? But I went out, and following me, my elder sister and my two younger brothers, they followed me, and we had the best time of our lives, really playing in the rain and the mud and climbing trees and really making ourselves dirty and then cleaning with the rainwater. It was beautiful. It was messy. It was messy, but it was beautiful. It was something that I can always look back and see how it was the best experience. Childhood experience.
Yeah. I sometimes try to take people back by asking them that, because it always takes us back to a sense of pure joy. It's a time before we decided we started layering all these other things, these responsibilities, these labels, even. So those pure joy moments, I like to make sure that people have an opportunity to share that with the audience.
Are you a consultant or coach who spends too much time trying to find the right tools or the right systems for your business? If you're like I was early in my consulting business, I spent a lot of time researching which project management tool, CRM system, website building and hosting company, accounting software, and other tools that were best for my business. I also spent time creating email templates and even contract templates for clients and vendors. Chances are you're either doing the same or you've done the same. My name is Patrice Davis, and I'm the CEO of a consulting firm, GrantsWorks. I'm also the owner of Ready, Set, Go Consult, a consulting business accelerator, and the host of the Age Has No Limit podcast. I'm here to tell you about the Ultimate Consultants and Freelancer Starter Kit. The kit is a curated list of tools of the trade, templates, and other resources you'll need to run your business. It even includes the six-figure proposal template, the one I've used to win 5 and 6-figure engagements. There's also a fluff-free summary of what it takes to build and grow your consulting or coaching business. Here's the thing. On average, consultants, freelancers, and other independent service providers work up to 65 hours per week. I created the kit myself because I know it can help you save time from hours of research and trial and error. It's what I would have wanted when I started my consulting firm in 2020. Here's the thing. You can't grow a successful business when your foundation isn't stable and when your delivery and systems are chaotic and outdated. Click the link below to learn more about the starter kit, or visit readysetgoconsult.com/starter kit. You'll be happy you did. As a friendly reminder, if you're listening to us on your favorite streaming platform, please download this and any of our past episodes so you can listen on the go. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. Now back to the podcast.
Now you're an adult, and we're just kind of following Shabnam's life here, guys. So now you're an adult, and now you are a career woman in a high stakes finance community, or high stakes finance career. Tell us exactly what you did and what made it high stakes.
Yes, so from my if you look at my career, it was over 25 years at a senior management level in 4 major industries across 3 continents. So that's a big chunk of my experience. And I started out really at a very junior level state. And since I was going through, so my job started almost at the same time when my marriage started. So both of these started at the same time. Practically because of the abusive marriage, I had put all my attention and my sort of focus and my hard work on my job. And it is because of that led me to the career progression slowly and gradually. So from from manager administration, I moved up to the level of head of administration, managing all the customer services back and managing a team of, oh my God, it was 6 direct reportees and God, how many people? Over 100 people countrywide.
Wow.
At a very very young age, I was the head of the department in 8 years' time. And then I switched industry because I really wanted to go out of that industry. And I switched industry. And when I was switching industry, I went at a lower level again. Because obviously, when you're switching industry from one industry to the next, you cannot expect other industry to take you at the same senior level. So I went at a low level. And it was just like, I don't know how to give you a metaphor in terms of when you're aiming through what do you call it, the and shooting an arrow.
Yeah, bow and arrow. Yeah,
Right. You pull it back and then you shoot it, right? So that shift from one industry to the next was like that, pulling me back a little bit. But then I was so I joined the banking from there as looking after bank assurance, moved up to become head of bank assurance, and then moved up to become the head of the customer services, or not just insurance, but the financial services and the bank. And then from there, I moved on to become head of deposit sales. And I joined another bank as a VP, and then rose on to the level of senior vice president, looking after product and sales and corporate services, all one. And then I switched country, moved on to another country, and joined at a lower level, not really at the senior vice president, joined at a lower level, and then again moved up, and then joined another industry. It was an industrial conglomerate, and I joined this time as on the HR side.
Oh, okay.
Switching my career, went on to become executive search head, and then handling all the HR related functions for the industrial conglomerate. So if I look back in terms of my experience, over 25 years, I spent in the corporate sector. Then I got married to my current husband, and set up an insurance brokerage business from scratch, built it up, scaled it up, and then handed it over to him before setting up the Volunteer Well.
Wow, quite a bit. Pretty diverse.
Yes.
Pretty diverse work experience. And as you said, across, I think you said 3 continents. So yeah, that's amazing. The fact that you were, because as we know, in different countries, different systems, given different expectations around governance and so many different things. So that's pretty interesting. We're still focusing a little bit on Shabnam, the woman. So now you're in Canada. And so this may seem out of like a very different type of question. But before we go back into the Volunteer Well, I just want to paint the picture of what you've created based on what you experienced, who you are. And then we're going to go back to the Volunteer Well, because I think it's important to really focus our efforts there and just make sure that people understand just the wonderful tool it has become. So 2 quick questions. Number 1, what is it like living in Canada? And number 2, is the Volunteer Well something that people can use here in the U.S. as well? And tell me a little bit about how the Volunteer Well has been able to, make progress or make inroads in the U.S. versus Canada. So that's 3 questions. What's it like living in Canada? Do you, what's your favorite part? And then also the experience of the Volunteer Well from both countries.
Yes. So if I look at what is it like living in Canada, it's like I said, I'm living my dream life, and a major part of that is Canada. It's amazing in terms of what this country has given to me. I love Canada in terms of everything, in terms of my ability and my strength, and my perseverance in terms of having the custody back. It's not easy when you're sitting here and you're fighting the court case battle in Pakistan. It's not easy. But being in Canada just was so supportive, so amazing in terms of the country's values, in terms of everywhere that I have gone, every person that I have met. I found huge joy support deeper connections. And I'm loving the life here.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the Volunteer Well is registered as a federally registered Canadian charity. So
Mm-hmm.
it's in terms of our scope, in terms of our mandate, it is, although our offices are in Ontario, it's in Hamilton, Niagara, and GTA regions of Ontario, but mandate and our scope is worldwide. I vision the charity to have to be present in over 100 countries in 10 years. It's a baby charity. We are in our second year of operations, but our vision and our mandate is profound. It's going to impact so many lives.
Yeah.
So we're just starting out.
Well, I think it's a great transition or a great segue to talking about something you said earlier, which is so interesting, and I never thought about it. So because I come from a nonprofit career as well, I actually started out in marketing and then transitioned to working in nonprofits for a number of years. I'm familiar with a number of areas of nonprofit management. I've gone through the certifications. So I actually have both, some training, but also, of course, the lived experience. You mentioned something about how volunteering sort of has become, I don't want to use the word an industry, but it's definitely facilitated by a relationship between a middleman, the nonprofit being the middleman. So, for example, if you wanted to volunteer to help women that live in a domestic violence shelter, you would have to go through the shelter, register as a volunteer, go through whatever training they may or may not require. Then you get an opportunity to volunteer. And that's when you may or may not experience opportunities to work with the one or more of the women that you hope to support. And the way that the Volunteer Well is designed, it, like you said, moves the middleman. You can actually say that you want to work with a person who may have had some experience in a domestic violence shelter. That person, would come looking for that support, and then the platform facilitates that without that nonprofit. And so I'm really curious to know what has been the feedback from the nonprofit community on the Volunteer Well.
Yeah, so the way it is structured and the way we are approaching is in terms of never ever undermining the impact of the current nonprofit sector. In terms of the impact of the current nonprofit sector is huge. So what we are promoting is a sort of a non-reliance on the nonprofit sector. So right now the world reality is that these nonprofit sector, they're struggling in terms of meeting the demand. And I'll just give you one aspect in terms of one of the target marginalized segment that we are focusing on our efforts on is in terms of low income families, right? So if you look at 2021, the nonprofit sector combined supported $500 billion for low income families. But if you look at actual demand, that is to the tune of $7 to $8 trillion. So there's a huge demand and supply gap. So what we are doing, we are not undermining or removing the middleman. What we are trying to do is we are augmenting their efforts. We are starting these ripple of kindness where instead of people asking for a local organization, they can ask their neighbor, they can ask their next door neighbor for any help and support that they need. And thereby, what we are doing is we are augmenting the nonprofit efforts with these small ripple of kindness through which we can bridge the demand and supply gap.
I really thought, I think it's a fascinating idea and concept. And now obviously it's become a reality. And it's been the reality now for 2 years that people, because it does foster connectedness. And it reminds me of, there was a movement at some point in the US several years ago where people were doing intentional acts of kindness or, kind of, I forgot what the actual term was, but I remember being the recipient of that. And I still remember to this day when I was in a drive-through at a Starbucks, let's say a coffee company. So we are not giving them any, we were in the drive-through of a big, large international coffee company, coffee house. And I drove up, and the person that worked at the coffee, the barista said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about paying for it. The person ahead of you paid for it." And it may seem like a small thing. I mean, they don't know what I was going to order. I could have decided I wanted to order, a whole breakfast, but for whatever reason, the person just paid extra. And I just, to this day, remember it, how that small act of kindness impacted my life. I was so excited. Oh, I don't have to pay for it. But at the same time, I was much more touched by that small act of kindness. So I do really understand how important that is for us. And I really can see how it can foster connectedness and make neighbors again. So I'm getting excited about it now that I think about it and its impact. So you've had it now, or the organization has been a reality for 2 years. What would you say has been your biggest challenge as the leader of the organization?
The biggest challenge is, again, the world that we are living in, right? Is in terms of people being boxed in different discrimination boxes based on their background, right? So as people of color families, I'm not excluded or immune to those boxes, right? So that is one of the challenges that we as charity, and myself as the founding CEO of the charity, has been facing in terms of the current world reality. Another current world reality is in terms of people are living in this world of scarcity and competitions and judgments and exclusions, right? So when you're living in the world of scarcity and competitions and exclusions, when you're talking about a charity like us, it is this or that. It is not what it is. What it is to move everybody to the world of abundance. There's no this or that. There's enough for everyone and more. There's a concept of abundance and collaboration. So one of the biggest challenge is to really combine all the efforts, whether it is from nonprofit sector, whether it is from businesses, whether it is from individuals, and then be able to move the needle towards empowered individuals, strengthened families, connected communities, and united humanity. Because that is where our true human potential is. That is where we are supposed to be, right?
Absolutely. And as you were describing that, I kept thinking to myself, okay, competition and exclusions and just thinking about how those discrimination boxes, again, are reinforced by a lot of different things that are very important to people, such as their religious affiliation, and just how that is indeed not just a huge challenge, but I don't think it's a challenge that can't be overcome. It's just going to take some time for people to see how we are connected more than we are divided, even if the division that they envision or live out is reinforced by something as important as their religious belief. And that's something that's very, very, just something that we should definitely keep in mind. So let's talk more about what you want to do as an individual outside of the volunteer well. Tell me what you think what's on your, I'll call it a bucket list, but I know some people don't have them. What's that thing you want to do outside of the volunteer well, even outside of being a mother? What's the most important thing to you for you to accomplish as an individual?
Okay, so I before I answer, that's a very, very good question. Before I answer that question, I just want to highlight one important aspect of the Volunteer Well platform. So what we are doing is we are not only deeply connecting communities based on the science of generosity in terms of asking for help or giving of help, but also highlighting potential of us manifesting anything in our life through the science of generosity. So for instance, if you are looking for a good relationship, if you're looking for whatever you're manifesting, the only possibility of you being in the spirit or being inspired or being able to really invite and attract that into your life is when you're working in the world of abundance, and that is the only possible through the science of generosity, when you're asking for help and when you're giving help. That is the only possibility. So the Volunteer Well platform aims to do these two important
Mm.
aspects. And when you talk about all the empowerment programs, all the empowerment programs are based on not just deeper connections, but also in terms of manifesting whatever you want in your life through living in the world of abundance, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
just
But you brought up something, the science of generosity. Is that what you're saying?
mhm.
Ah, I've never heard of that before. Before you answer that last question, we're gonna we're gonna dig into the science of generosity. Tell me what that is. I've never heard of that term before. So if it's your term, tell me what that means to you. What made you decide to?
No, it's not my term. Science of
Mhm,
generosity is the concept of the loop of giving and receiving, right? So the science of generosity is that if you look at the loop, right, the giver can only give when the
mhm.
receiver is able to receive, right? And
Yes,
both of them, when they keep on giving and receiving, is when the loop keeps on going and then the momentum keeps on increasing. And
yes.
it's through the science of generosity that we tap into the world of abundance. So, for instance, if you want whatever for your life, right? If you are able to rather than being in the space of the world of scarcity, if you are able to harness the good and being gratitude and then sharing your blessings and whatever you have with the world, the
Mhm.
universe responds. And it
Absolutely.
responds in many folds. It
Yeah,
responds in multitude. And this is
yes.
something that I have experienced personally, and it's something that many people have experienced. And many
Mhm.
people have experienced in terms of the giving portion of it. But what I would like to say is it's not just the giving, it's the receiving portion. So when you give, you receive. That's a fundamental truth that everybody is aware of. But what
Mhm.
nobody is aware of, that when you actually ask for help, you're actually giving.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's 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 perhaps more important than receiving. So the science of generosity is built around receiving and giving on equal proportion. It's the
Mhm.
loop, it's the momentum that needs to continue.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to briefly pick up on that. Yeah, guys, for those of you who want me to go back to, what she plans on doing with her life and her age has no limit and her bucket list, I do think it's important to focus on this. So it's interesting that you're speaking about giving and also your belief that receiving is actually more important than giving because you're giving the opportunity, right? You're giving another person an opportunity to give, which of course is a gift in and of itself. So I'm listening to this and I'm thinking about the chapter in a book that I just finished reading about the importance of giving. And I remember thinking to myself, it just finally sunk in. You know how sometimes you have to read a book 2 times, maybe even 3 times for certain things, and then you pick up on certain things even more. And I remember reading that chapter thinking, I read this before. Either I was tired or I wasn't ready for the message, but now here I am really ready for this message about the importance of giving and giving without expecting and giving from a place of and you're right, abundance, understanding that you give something, it doesn't mean that it's being given away. You're actually preparing yourself to receive something. So that was just a new realization I had just 1 or 2 days ago when I finished that chapter. So again, almost every time I have a guest on this podcast, they are reinforcing something without it's just being reinforced automatically. So again, it's a part of that energetic connection that I think we all have, as you said, and we are all indeed connected. I've said this before on one of my previous podcasts. I do believe that we are all divine beings. Everything on this planet is divine. We're part of I call it a divinity soup. But it is interesting to hear that the platform also can facilitate that deeper understanding that giving and receiving can produce abundance for all of us, if that makes sense. So now we're going to go back, guys, and ask that question that we asked Shabnam. And that is about the thing that she wants to accomplish more than anything else, that like her, if she's willing to share, like the place she may want to visit or the activity she wants to complete that may not be connected to her being a mom or being the leader of this fantastic organization.
Yeah, so other than the, obviously, there are many things on my bucket list, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are things like making sure that I would impact millions and millions of lives through
Mm-hmm.
charity. I be able to really share whatever I have learned in terms of enlightenment to others. So that is there. But in terms of answering your question, something that's not linked to the charity is my bucket list in terms of going for a traveling vacation with my children. I know they are all adult now; they are all living their life, but that
Mm-hmm.
is in my bucket list. I have had many traveling trips with them before.
Mm-hmm.
I handed them the custody over, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to have just one more trip with them
Mm-hmm.
before I hit the bucket. And on the personal side, I'm really fan of water in terms of all water sports
Mm-hmm.
related activities. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a scuba diver. I want to
Oh,
be
I
a
love
scuba
that.
diver. I want to do that before I hit the big bucket.
I like that. Yeah, that's kick the big bucket, right? No, but I definitely get it. Yeah. So that's fun. I like that. Now we're gonna pick up on that a little bit more. Where is that dream place that you would want to do some scuba diving?
Thailand,
An island?
Thailand.
Oh, Thailand. Oh, I love that. Yes. Okay, great, great, great. So this is an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper, as you said. Now, tell me what you think an age has no limit life means.
Yeah, so age has no limit. Life means because if I look at really being able to live my dream life was when I practically so I celebrated my 50th birthday this year, right? And
Congratulations. Mhm.
thank you. So age has no limit for me in terms of because if you look at most women, we give up on us as soon as we cross our 40s. Whereas
Mhm.
I give birth to my daughter after crossing my 40s. And then I'm setting up the charity and I'm doing so much. So age definitely has no limit. Age is just a number. It's in your mind. It's nothing more than that.
Mhm.
This 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 body, this vehicle is just something that I'm using while I'm here um,
Mhm.
uh, on this planet Earth. So age has nothing to do with what you can achieve, what you can really set your mind to. So whatever you want in terms of our empowerment program, in terms of even what I have said for myself, I
Mhm.
have made vision for myself, a mandate for myself for 10 years, for 20 years, for 30 years. I've done that. Um, and there's no limit to what you can achieve. There's no limit what we can achieve because at the very essence of it, we are spiritual beings, right? And
Yes,
we are
absolutely.
limitless. We are
Mhm.
limitless. And I always give the example of electricity because electricity is the same that runs through the electric bulb, which takes maybe an AA battery power. And it's the
Mhm.
same that runs through the iron. Whatever you ask from that energy gives you. So why
Yeah.
are we sticking to light bulb? Why are we not going really limitless in terms of our visions and our mandate?
I love that. Limitless in terms of our visions and our mandate. That is an excellent way to end this episode and an excellent way. I just really like that. I think I might write that down. Why not be limitless in terms of our vision and our mandates? That's a great quote. So thank you so much, Shabnam. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to get to know more about you and about the Volunteer Well. So those of you who are listening and you're interested in going and perhaps signing up as a volunteer or maybe even seeking, that support, being a receiver who is also, of course, a giver, go to volunteer-well.org. So don't forget that hyphen. And again, I want to thank Shabnam for her time and for being a guest on the H Has No Limit podcast. I really think that when we consider where she's come from and the different places she's lived and the experiences she's had, that she truly is yet another example that age has no limit.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Age Has No Limit podcast. Except for when we have quarterly breaks, we release a new episode each week featuring people who decided to live a no-limit life, or featuring tips or lessons learned from me as I create my own no-limit life. By the way, don't forget to subscribe. I look forward to sharing our next episode with you. And just remember, age has no limit.